who promises that all things are working for the good of those who love Him, those called according to His purpose. We think forward. We are heavenly minded. We will persevere. That's what we saw last week in verse 12 of James chapter 1. Even when we can't cry anymore, we know what David told us is true in Psalm 30. What did David say? In the morning, what? Joy comes in the morning. Joy will never not come for the Christian. Joy will never not come for the Christian. And so James is teaching us here in the first 12 verses, we're to think biblically about our trials. We're to have good mental habits with regard to our trial. It matters how you think. The devil knows this. Screwtape knows it. You know, if you're still thinking like the world, Screwtape's not concerned about your profession of faith either. Just like he's not concerned about this patient in the Screwtape letters. If your mental habits haven't changed, if your heart hasn't changed, he's not worried about it. He's not worried about it. He's not worried about it at all. And we come down to verse 13 here. James continues this message about how we think. It matters how we think. It's important how we think. Verse 13 of James 1, let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted by evil, and He Himself does not tempt anyone. But each one is tempted when he is carried away and enticed by his what? His own lust. Then when lust has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And when sin is accomplished, it brings forth death. Do not be deceived, my beloved brethren. I have two favorite John Piper quotes. I'm going to share them with you. The first one is a 6-word quote. And nothing in your life is exempt from this quote. Okay? I love this quote. Human life is all about God. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. But how many of you believe that every single thing in your life is about God? You know, I think this is a real poverty in much of the church. I don't think most Christians are convinced that every single thing in their life is about God. That's what God says. Every single thing. You know, and if you're not thinking like that, then I don't think Screwtape's worried about you. I don't think Screwtape's worried. Human life is all about God, friend. That's a biblical assertion. That is a biblical assertion. My second favorite John Piper quote, it's only 4 words. And it impacts every human being on the planet. Every single one of us. Bad theology hurts people. Don't you love that? Bad theology hurts people. Now, what is theology? Theology is just simply the way it's the study of the nature of God. It's simply the way we think about God. The way we see God. What we believe to be true about God. That's what theology means. And if your theology is bad, which is to say if it's not biblical, you are hurting yourself. You are hurting your life. That's a biblical assertion. Wrong believing leads to what? Wrong what? Living. Wrong believing always leads to wrong living. Wrong thinking always leads to wrong living. It always does. If you're not eating this, if you're not digesting this, if this is not your meat and your bread, friends, you're putting yourself at risk. You're putting yourself at risk. You're putting yourself at risk. God has spoken in His Word. It's the truth about God, and oh, guess what else it is? It's the truth about you. And it's the truth about your sin. God has spoken clearly in His Word. You know, that corollary truth of really getting a glimpse of Jesus Christ. Man, if we really got a glimpse of Jesus Christ, man, we can't help but see ourselves in the light that we should. Man, He's holy and lifted up, and He's awesome. We won't think too highly of ourselves if we catch a true glimpse of Jesus Christ. I dare say. You know, I get jazzed up in here sometimes, and I'll say to you, and I bet many of you have heard me say this before, I'll say to you, I don't know why there's not 10,000 people in this room or trying to crush into this room so they can hear the gospel. But you know why? You know why 10,000 people aren't trying to crush into this room? You know, the Bible tells us men hate the truth. Men don't want the truth about God, and men don't want the truth about themselves. And James is telling us in this verse 13 here, you need to be thinking biblically. You need to be thinking right about God, and you need to be thinking right about yourself. And right about your sin. We won't be thinking correctly about ourselves, lest we are thinking correctly about God. It's the consummate inconvenient truth, right? Men don't want to know what God says about Himself or about us. John said it in John chapter 3. Men love the darkness. They will not come to the light because their deeds are dark. And men love the darkness. Verses 13 to 16 here. James is reminding us that bad theology hurts people. And he pivots right here between verse 12 and verse 13. He's been talking about trials, but then he kind of pivots here in verse 13. And the context here is trials. But every trial has the potential to become what? This is very important for us to understand. Every trial has the potential to become what? A temptation. If we're not thinking biblically about it, it has the potential to become a temptation. And that's what James is talking about here. If we respond biblically to the trial, it's a means of spiritual growth, a means of blessing. If we don't respond biblically, if we respond the way the world will respond, most likely we will fall into temptation and into sin. And this is the point that James is making. I've been in lay and vocational ministry 25 years, and I've seen this sad thing happen many times. A trial will come into a professed Christian's life, and they will just get blown down and blown away. And the next thing you know, they're mad at God, which I think has to be the dumbest thing a human being could ever do, is to get mad at God. I've seen this. People get mad at God. The next thing they do is because they're so hurt and things have been so hard, they fall into sin, right? And the next thing you find out is they're blaming God for everything. It's God's fault. If He hadn't let that thing happen to me, I would have never fallen into sin. I can't tell you how many times I see this and hear this. And this is what James is talking about. He says, you can't blame God, verse 13. You can't blame God for your own sin. How long has this been going on? How long have men and women been blaming God for their sin? Anybody? Anybody remember? Oh, Chan, what? Genesis chapter 3, right? In the garden. What did Adam say? No, well, it was the woman you gave me. And what did Eve say? Oh, it was the snake you made. You know, neither one of them would take responsibility, and implicitly they blamed God. That's the way men are. That's the way fallen men think. That's the way fallen men think. You know, Adam's saying, well, what'd you give me this woman for anyway? It's her fault. Men not taking responsibility for their own sin. And I hear, you know, when I talk to unbelievers and I'll talk to them about God, you know, and this is one of the things I always hear. Hey, it's all God's fault. How come the world's so messed up? It's God's fault. How come He put that tree in the garden? If He hadn't put that tree in the garden, none of this would have happened. Friends, that's how men are. Let me ask you, who are you blaming for your sin? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something biblically here. It's not God's fault. It's not your husband's fault. It's not your wife's fault. It's not your boss's fault. It's not your parents' fault. I don't care how messed up they were and how they raised you. It's not your parents' fault. Your sin, God is making explicitly clear, your sin is your fault. It's your fault. And God is telling us that very clearly. And what I love about it, He tells us very clearly, your sin is your fault. And He calls us over in 1 John to repentance, right? To get that cleansing and that washing. And we'll talk more about that. Talk more about that in just a few minutes. So I love this emphatic statement here. Adam, you can't blame Eve. And Eve, you can't blame the snake. God says, you take responsibility for your own sin. Take responsibility for your own sin. I love this emphatic statement here. God